name is Katharina Masoud and I'm working for Amnesty International in Germany on women's rights and other topics. And today I have the pleasure to speak with Celina Escher, who's the director of Fly So Far. So I'm very pleased to be able to speak with her today. The documentary is about Teodora, who's a Salvadoran woman who lost her child in the last month of pregnancy and is later accused of aggravated homicide of her dead-born child. And we learn also in the documentary that she is not the only one who is in these kind of conditions, but that there are also several other women who are accused of similar charges and who are basically denied their human rights and denied also their reproductive rights. And this is because of a situation that started in 1997, because then a law was passed that banned all forms of abortion in El Salvador. And therefore women who arrive, for example, at hospitals with bleedings or other pregnancy-related complications or miscarriages are accused of having had like an abortion. So they are actually in trials facing many years of prison and have very complicated situations. And Amnesty International published in 2014 a report which is called On the Brink of Death, where we actually document all these human rights violations against women, against pregnant people, and where we also show the institutionalized violence, which is demonstrated in this documentary as well. Welcome, Celina. I'm happy to talk to you today, and I would like to know, for you, what is like the story you want to tell with this documentary? What is the message you want to convey with this film?
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be part of the festival. It's really important to talk about women's rights. And well, our film, the main message, is the story of Teodora Vázquez and the 17. And it's a story of empowerment. For me, it was really important to focus on the process of empowerment of Teodora Vázquez, how she, from being a victim of this misogynist system, how she became a women's rights activist. Teodora Vázquez, she comes from a rural area and has indigenous backgrounds. So this was also important for me to highlight this situation. And as Teodora and the 17, they are all the survivors of different kinds of violence. They all survived physical violence, sexual violence, police violence, state violence, and obstetrical violence. So for me, it was important also to tell that they are survivors of all this kind of violence, and they are not only victims. I didn't want to victimize them. For me, it was really important to focus on the empowerment. And the other thing that I experienced while visiting the prison was the sisterhood they have woven during the time in prison, and they support each other. So this is also one of the hearts of the film. What's really important for me and what inspired me to do this film was the sisterhood between them. So from one side, the idea is to denounce the human rights violations against women in El Salvador, and also to contribute to the fight for the legalization of abortion and the freedom for the 17. It was really important to contribute because there's a movement happening in El Salvador, and this was my way to contribute to the fight. So the world knows that in El Salvador, women cannot even have an abortion, even if their life is in danger. So if there's no possibility, even if a 10-year-old girl is pregnant because of rape, she cannot have an abortion. So this goes against all human rights, and is also called torture if a girl has to have to keep the pregnancy, although it was forced because of violence. So this is So I wanted to explain the context of El Salvador. So how is this happening? How is this really possible that a woman gets criminalized just for being women? And if they have an obstetrical emergency, why they are being criminalized and then sentenced to 30 years of prison for aggravated homicide? So the film gives the context, but also the story of Teodora and the 17.
Yeah, thank you very much. You said that there are like a broad range of different kinds of violations, and that you were wanted to show these violence, and now you also mentioned the institutionalized violence and the state violence. And at one point in that documentary, Teodora says something like, as women become like the possession of the state, the state is ruling over us or over our bodies. And also there is like one part where a female doctor is saying that actually like women are becoming incubators, and that they are denied all their rights. How does this resonate with you, and maybe also why?
Well, these two things are really important that the world know what's happening. Teodora makes this reflection after she has experienced all this injustice on her body, because before all that, she didn't know about the criminalization of abortion, but then she experienced it, and then she got criminalized for having an obstetric emergency. And when she arrives in the prison, at the beginning she thought she's alone, and then by little, she gets to know there are more women that have the same situation, that they have been criminalized also for an obstetric emergency. So then she realized that this is something systematically, that it's not just happened to her. So I think this reflection of her, it's really, really important because she gets aware of the situation in the situation that she is. So it's a systematically persecution against women in El Salvador, just for being women. So this is because of the penal code. You get from 2 to 8 years prison if you have an abortion. But the thing is, when women go to the hospital, they have an obstetric emergency. Then the doctors call the police, and then the police go to the hospitals and they get arrested in the hospitals. So this is the beginning when their human rights are being violated. And then in the trials, the judges changed the tipification of the crime from abortion to aggravated homicide. So this is why they get 30 years of prison. And what the doctor says, when a woman becomes pregnant, automatically she becomes an incubator. This is all because in the Constitution, it says in the Article 1 that the life begins at conception. And this is what happens. So when a woman is pregnant, automatically, actually, the fetus has more right to live than the woman itself. So many women who maybe they are pregnant and they need medical help, maybe a treatment to save their life, but this treatment will cause a miscarriage. Then the doctors will be implied in this crime, how they put it in the law. So this is then the consequence is that the doctors let the women die. So then the woman die and the fetus die. So the thing is, because of these two changes in the penal code and in the Constitution, the woman loses her right to live, and the fetus becomes more important. So the woman has to give birth, although she dies in the process, and the doctors the doctors let the women die if they are in a situation like this. The thing is, this situation only happens to women who live in poverty. This doesn't happen to any woman who has enough money, because they can go to a private clinic or they go abroad to make an abortion. And the thing is, this criminalization of women only happens to women who live in poverty. So it's also a criminalization of poverty. what is happening in El Salvador. And it goes against all human rights. So this is really important, and the people know this. It's really shocking to hear that, but that's what's happening in El Salvador.
Like the last point you were referring to, this intersecting forms of discrimination, like gender-biased violence and poverty-related violence, and also at the beginning you said that she has some indigenous roots in her family. So yeah, do you think that your documentary is contributing to the understanding of intersectional discrimination, and in what way did you want to show how it works?
Well, at first, all the women who are portrayed come from rural, and they are in a poverty background. So, and they have been criminalized. So was the first thing that really, it's really important to understand that there are only women who live in poverty. It happens to them. And especially now women, now in the case of Teodora, she comes from a place where it has indigenous origins. So it was really important also for me to rewrite this story in a way to tell women can be powerful, women can fight for themselves, women are not only victims. And also the spokesperson is Teodora. For me, it was really important to highlight this and how they live in the countryside. So I think in the film, you got to understand the intersectionality of the discrimination that's happening to the Salvadorian women.
Yeah, thank you very much. You also were already mentioning the ways how people or how these women are treated in the hospitals, and you were describing all the human rights violations that they are experiencing before giving birth and after. In the film, you chose to use animation to tell these stories. How did it come? Does it contribute in a special way for you, like to add this to the spoken words of the women you were interviewing?
Well, yes, it was an artistic decision, that it was really for me important to hear their testimonies, what they say, how they experienced the situation, how they lived it. For one side, because in the media they have been criminalized all the time, and it was important to give the spoken words to them so they can speak and they can tell their own story. Each story, it's so difficult and really hard and really loaded of violence. It was really difficult to imagine that, so much violence. For example, Teodora explains that after the police took her, she gave birth. She lost her baby during birth. It was a stillbirth, and then the police came and arrested her. They had her hanging on in the police station for around 8 hours, and she almost died. She was bleeding almost to death. So this is a kind of torture that these images that she told me, I think it was really important that we also see it, so we can also feel more the pain they have felt in this situation. And also for me, it was really shocking to hear all these stories. So yes, I wanted that their audience sees, so they can experience and be there in this moment, how they are being treated and how they are being discriminated, and all the violence that they had to suffer, and all the injustice that it's happening towards them. So I decided to use the animation, and we work with two great animators. And for me, it was important that we have it in black and white because it's a memory also. But the only color was the color of red, the blood. I think this is really also visually, it really comes to your eyes, it pulls out. So I think it was really, I think it was really great how the animators managed, to show and to draw the animations. And from one side, I always didn't want the women to be victimized, but we have to show somehow the violence they have survived. So this is why I chose this technique.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely it worked out well. It's very touching, very moving to see these scenes. And also what you already said, it has been a process. It started with these human rights violations, and then they became activists and fighters for women's rights and human rights. You have now followed Teodora and the others for, I heard now, like 4 years or more or less. It has been like a long time already. What is like the most moving moment for you? What was something that inspired you or touched you?
Well, the first time I visited them in the Ilopango prison was really moving for me. I saw the terrible conditions they are living in. It's overcrowded, they don't have enough water, they sleep on the floor, they don't have medical access, so they have a really difficult situation they have to survive. And for me, it was really shocking to see that, and also motivated me to take their stories out of prison. So the people can see like these terrible conditions they have to live. And the other, well, I went many times in these 4 years. I visited them many times. There are 5 women's prisons in El Salvador, and I was able to visit in 3 different prisons. So I could see the different conditions. And that was really difficult also to see, but really important that the world know that it's really inhumane, these prison conditions. And the other moment that I really remember while filming was after the trial of Teodora, and to see all her family outside and all the women and the feminists who are supporting them. Also, everybody was crying, and I had to cry also a lot while filming. This really, I felt this injustice. I was during the trial all the time inside, so I could hear what the judges said and how they, why they condemned her again. So that was a really difficult moment also. And another, well, during the filming, it was difficult, and also during the editing, also I had to cry a lot. It really, this film, well, these stories and everybody has, like, it touched me so much. I'm Salvadorian, I'm a woman, so this really touches me and moves me, and I think I think I learned a lot during this process as a human being and as a filmmaker also. So I think yeah, the whole process was really difficult, and yeah, these two moments in prison and in the trial was a moment that really touches me. And after, like, I can also say a positive thing when the women got released. There are some women got released, so that it's another moment of happiness, of course, that a woman can regain her freedom. That's another really touching moment. And to see them keep fighting, fighting for the others, and fighting that this story doesn't happen again. To witness this process is really has been something really beautiful and inspired me.
Yeah, you definitely were able to transmit this inspiration, also these deep moments of emotions. It's a really touching documentary, and yeah, as a viewer, you can also definitely feel it. Obviously, also when you watch it, then you ask the question, what can I do? What can we do? What can the international community do? What can Amnesty International do? I don't know whether you have any ideas that you would like to share with us.
Well, it's really important to have international support in this moment, international solidarity. It's really important to support the organizations that are already working to free the women in El Salvador, to make international pressure to the Salvadoran government so they change the abortion law and release the women who are unjustly in prison. We are working on an impact campaign, and we are asking and inviting all organizations who want to join this fight, and everybody who wants to join and support the 17. Also, what's really important, we are making a call to action the 28th of September. That's the International Day for the Decriminalization of Abortion. So we are asking everybody to join this call of action on the 28th of September. We'll make many things. And I think we can we are part of this global movement, feminist global movement. We are all fighting for the autonomy of our body and the right to choose. So this is something that we could do. And also there's another organization that it's new, that it's Mujeres Libres, the organization from the freed women. Also, if you can support this new organization, it's by the 17 and for the 17 who are being released. And yes, there are really many things we can do. Also, the European Parliament, they make an analysis to what's happening in El Salvador. So it will be amazing if they can make a new analysis about the situation now, because really many things changed. So it's now there has been a persecution against women's organization in El Salvador. So we need all kinds of support.
So what actually happened after you stopped filming? Are there any new developments, like on legal terms? What is happening right now?
Well, now there is a really difficult context for women. Since the new government, the new right government from Bukele took power in 2019, he has started to militarize the country, and it's also he has started to make an intimidation to the opposition. Now he has the majority in the parliament, and also in the Supreme Court he has power. So now he actually has almost total power. So it's a really difficult situation. His party has sent to archive the bill for the legalization of abortion. So this means it's now it's more difficult to achieve, to legalize abortion in 4 cases. These 4 cases were only for exceptions. I can tell the cases. It's to legalize abortion in case of the life of the woman is in danger, or if the fetus won't survive outside the womb, in cases of rape or rape of a minor. So these were the 4 cases women were fighting. And as you can see in the film, it was not possible to even vote for this. The right wing blocked it, and also the Catholic Church. And now that the party of Bukele took power, they have sent this bill to archive. And it started now a persecution against feminist organizations and human rights organizations. And also there is no really a freedom of speech. So he's really starting an authoritarian regime, and the police and the military has more power now. It's a really difficult situation. Now many feminist voices have outspoken about what's happening, and they want to keep fighting for the legalization of abortion in 4 cases, but we know it will be really difficult. They have announced they will keep fighting, and I think what's really important is to support the fight in El Salvador, and also to keep the eyes in El Salvador, because it's a really difficult situation, especially now for women's rights. In a context where every day women and girls get raped, they are femicide and transfeminicide every day. Some months ago, they found 40 women, there was a femicide of 40 women by an ex-police officer, and it has not been investigated. So it's a really difficult situation for women and girls to survive all this type of violence, and also now the state violence against women, and especially feminist organizations.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely, I hope that people are going to join this call that you're making today. Yeah, definitely it is important to support women's rights, reproductive rights, human rights in general. And this documentary is definitely contributing to it. And I hope that everyone is joining in solidarity. Thank you very much, Celina.
Thank you very much.